A group of casino managers just broke their silence about which slot machines are specifically designed to keep you playing longer while paying out less. What they're revealing about these 10 machines could save you thousands of dollars. And the casino industry is furious this information is getting out. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which games use the most sophisticated psychological tricks and why these particular machines generate more profit for casinos than almost anything else on the floor. Let's dive into the 10 worst offenders. Wolf Run has been a casino staple for over a decade. The game features a wilderness theme with wolves, dream catchers, and Native American imagery. It looks beautiful, and the soundtrack is mesmerizing. But casino managers who've worked with this machine for years say it's a perfect example of how attractive packaging hides predatory mathematics. The base game return to player percentage sits around 94%, which actually sounds reasonable compared to some machines. But here's what managers discovered makes Wolf Run so effective at keeping your money. The Stacked Wilds feature creates an enormous number of near misses. You'll constantly see 2 reels filled with wild symbols, with the 3rd reel landing just 1 position away from giving you a massive win. Industry veterans explain that these near misses are programmed intentionally. They're not random bad luck. The game knows exactly how to show you wins that almost happened, keeping your brain engaged and convinced that the big payout is just 1 more spin away. Players will sit at Wolf Run for hours chasing that full screen of Stacked Wilds, watching it almost happen over and over again. The free spins bonus triggers when you land 3 or more Dreamcatcher symbols. Managers report this happens roughly once every 120 to 150 spins on average. The bonus gives you 5 free spins, but here's the catch. Those free spins rarely add up to more than 30 or 40 times your original bet. So if you're betting $2 per spin, you've spent around $300 to trigger a bonus that pays you $80 back. One manager shared a story about a regular player named David who played Wolf Run every weekend for nearly 3 years. David kept detailed records in a spreadsheet of every session. He tracked his wins, losses, and bonus triggers. After 3 years, David reviewed his data and realized he'd lost just over $28,000 on this single machine. The devastating part was that David genuinely believed for most of that time that he was close to breaking even because he triggered bonuses regularly and occasionally hit decent wins. Casino managers warn that Wolf Run's power lies in its ability to feel rewarding even when you're losing steadily. The frequent near misses and regular bonus triggers create a sensation of progress and excitement that masks the mathematical reality underneath. Buffalo Gold is part of Aristocrat's wildly popular Buffalo series, and it's everywhere. Walk into almost any casino and you'll find rows of Buffalo Gold machines, usually with players occupying every seat. There's a reason casinos dedicate so much floor space to this game. It's incredibly profitable for them. Casino managers report that Buffalo Gold has a base game RTP around 87 to 89%, depending on how the casino configures it. That's already concerning, but the real issue is the gold coin collection feature that gives the game its name. Before each spin, gold coin symbols can randomly appear on the reels. Collect enough coins and you trigger the free games bonus with better multipliers. Here's where the manipulation happens. The game shows you gold coins constantly, creating the impression that you're making progress toward the bonus. You'll see 1 coin, then 2, then 3. Your brain starts anticipating the bonus trigger, but the coins reset after each spin. Those 3 coins you collected don't carry over. It's an illusion of progress. Managers explain that this reset mechanism is psychologically powerful because it creates urgency. Players think if they just spin a few more times, they'll collect enough coins. But every spin is independent. The coins you saw 3 spins ago mean nothing now. Players end up chasing phantom progress that never actually existed. The free games bonus, when you finally trigger it, requires 3 or more buffalo symbols. This happens approximately once every 100 to 140 spins based on casino floor data. The bonus gives you 8, 15, or 20 free games depending on how many buffalo symbols you landed. During the bonus, high-paying symbols can appear stacked, leading to bigger wins. The problem is that most bonuses pay modestly. Managers with access to payout data report that roughly 70% of Buffalo Gold bonuses pay less than 50 times your bet. If you're betting $3 per spin and you spent $400 in spins to trigger the bonus, winning $120 doesn't come close to recovery. A casino manager from Nevada shared a particularly troubling observation. Buffalo Gold machines are often positioned in high-traffic areas near entrances, restaurants, and bathrooms. This isn't accidental. The machines are placed where casual players will see them, recognize the popular Buffalo brand, and sit down for what they think will be a quick session. Those quick sessions frequently turn into hours as the gold coin feature and frequent near misses keep players engaged. One regular player, a woman named Patricia, played Buffalo Gold almost daily for 16 months. Casino tracking data showed she was losing an average of $250 per session. Over those 16 months, she lost approximately $42,000. When a manager finally had a gentle conversation with Patricia about her losses, she was shocked. She thought she'd been losing maybe a few thousand at most because she won often enough to feel like she was staying afloat. Lightning Link revolutionized slot machine design when it was released, introducing the hold and respin mechanic that's now everywhere. The game comes in multiple themes, but they all work the same way. And according to casino managers, they all have the same fundamental problems. The base game RTP for Lightning Link varies, but typically sits around 87%. That's low, but what makes Lightning Link particularly effective at draining bankrolls is the titular feature itself. When you land 6 or more special symbols, you trigger the Lightning Link bonus. You get 3 respins, and each time you land another special symbol, your respins reset to 3. Managers explain that this feature is programmed to trigger frequently enough to keep you engaged. You'll see it roughly once every 80 to 120 spins, depending on your denomination. The psychological hook is that every time you land 4 or 5 special symbols, you get close to triggering the feature. Your heart rate increases, you lean forward, you might even talk to the machine, encouraging that 6th symbol to land. When you finally trigger the feature, here's what happens the vast majority of the time. You start with 6 symbols, get your 3 respins, and land maybe 1 or 2 more symbols before running out of spins. The feature ends and you collect whatever values were on those symbols, usually between 15 and 30 times your bet. But occasionally, maybe once every 30 or 40 feature triggers, something magical happens. You keep landing symbols, your respins keep resetting, and you fill most or all of the screen. These full-screen bonuses can pay several hundred times your bet or more. When this happens, the machine goes absolutely crazy with lights, sounds, and animations. Everyone nearby stops to look. Other players immediately want to play. Casino managers call this the showcase effect. That one massive Lightning Link win becomes advertising for the machine. What spectators don't see are the 30 disappointing features that player probably triggered before hitting the big one. They only see the excitement and assume the machine is hot. One manager recalled a bachelor party that descended on a bank of Lightning Link machines. The group spread out across 6 machines. betting significant amounts, and cheering each other on. Over 4 hours, the group collectively wagered approximately $8,000 according to transaction records. One member of the group hit a spectacular Lightning Link feature that paid around $1,200. The entire group erupted in celebration, taking photos and videos. When the group finally left, the casino's records showed they'd collectively lost about $5,500. But their perception was completely different. They left thinking they'd had an amazing night because of that one big win. The memory of losing thousands of dollars in small increments had been overwritten by the excitement of one feature. Managers specifically warn about Lightning Link because it's so good at making losing feel like winning. The frequent feature triggers keep you engaged, the occasional big win convinces you the machine pays well, and the showcase effect brings in new players constantly. Meanwhile, the mathematics are working against you every single spin. Wheel of Fortune is probably the most recognized slot machine brand in the world. It's been on casino floors for over 25 years, and it leverages one of the most successful game shows in television history. When players see that familiar wheel and hear the theme music, they feel safe and excited. That's exactly what makes it so dangerous. Casino managers report that Wheel of Fortune machines have base game RTPs ranging from 8 to 92% depending on the specific version and casino settings. That's not the absolute worst, but here's the problem. The Wheel of Fortune brand name makes players trust the machine. They assume because it's associated with a beloved TV show, it must be fair and player-friendly. That assumption costs them money. The main attraction is the bonus wheel feature. When you land 3 Wheel of Fortune symbols, you get to spin the physical wheel mounted on top of the machine. The wheel has various prizes including cash amounts, multipliers, and progressive jackpots. Spinning that physical wheel is satisfying and exciting. You're physically interacting with the game, and crowds gather to watch. Managers explain that the bonus wheel triggers approximately once every 300 spins on average. That's infrequent. If you're betting $2 per spin, you're spending $600 just to spin that wheel once. And when you finally do spin it, where does it usually land? On small prizes. The wheel is weighted so that low-value results are far more likely than high-value ones. The progressive jackpots displayed on the wheel are enormous, sometimes reaching hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Players see those jackpots and assume they have a reasonable shot at winning them when they spin the wheel. But managers with access to historical data report that the major progressive jackpots might hit once every several 100,000 spins or more. You're statistically more likely to be struck by lightning than to win the top progressive on Wheel of Fortune. What makes this particularly insidious is that the presence of those huge jackpots on the wheel takes up prize spaces. If those jackpot spaces weren't there, those segments might be occupied by modest cash prizes that would actually give players some return. Instead, you're spinning a wheel where the best outcomes are essentially impossible, and you're paying for that impossibility with reduced payouts elsewhere. A manager from Atlantic City shared a story about a retired couple who visited the casino every Tuesday for years. They always played Wheel of Fortune together, taking turns pressing the button. They loved the nostalgia and the excitement of occasionally spinning the wheel. Over 50 years, casino tracking showed this couple lost approximately $67,000 on Wheel of Fortune machines. When the manager who'd watched them play for years finally retired himself, he had a conversation with the couple. They mentioned they'd probably lost a few thousand over the years, but considered it the cost of entertainment. When the manager gently suggested they might want to review their player card statement, they were devastated to learn the truth. The familiar branding and enjoyable experience had completely masked how much money they were actually losing. Dragon Link uses the same hold and respin mechanic as Lightning Link, but with an Asian theme featuring dragons, pearls, and traditional symbols. It's become incredibly popular, especially in casinos with large Asian customer demographics. And, according to managers, it's just as problematic as its Lightning Link sibling, with some additional concerns. The base game RTP sits around 87 to 88%. The main feature triggers when you land 6 or more pearl symbols, giving you respins that reset when you land more pearls. This all sounds familiar because it's essentially Lightning Link with different graphics. But Dragon Link adds something extra: multiple progressive jackpots. The game has 4 progressives labeled Grand, Major, Minor, and Mini. During the Hold and Respin feature, certain pearl symbols have jackpot labels. Fill a screen section with jackpot pearls and you win that level. The grand jackpot can reach tens of thousands of dollars, and that number is prominently displayed above the machine for everyone to see. Managers explain that these progressives are a trap. To win the grand jackpot, you essentially need to fill the entire screen with pearl symbols during the feature. This is extraordinarily rare. Most features trigger with 6 pearls and maybe collect 2 or 3 more before ending. You're nowhere close to filling the screen. The mini jackpot, which is usually between $10 and $25, hits regularly. Players trigger the feature, collect a handful of pearls, win the mini jackpot, and feel rewarded. But they just spent $200 in spins to trigger a feature that paid them $20. The jackpot label makes it feel like a significant win when mathematically it's a substantial loss. What really concerns managers is how Dragon Link machines are often installed in large banks, sometimes 10 or 15 machines grouped together. When anyone on any machine wins a jackpot, all the machines in the bank light up and make noise. If you're playing one Dragon Link machine and someone 3 seats away wins the mini jackpot, your machine celebrates. Your screen flashes, sounds play, and for a moment you think you won something. This creates constant stimulation across the entire bank. Every few minutes, someone somewhere wins the mini jackpot and every machine reacts. Players are swimming in positive reinforcement even though most of them are losing money. The group excitement becomes self-sustaining. Players encourage each other, celebrate each other's wins, and keep feeding money into machines with terrible mathematics. A manager from Las Vegas shared an observation about a group of friends who met at the casino every Friday night, specifically to play Dragon Link together. They'd claim 6 machines in a row, order drinks, and play for hours. They'd cheer when anyone triggered the feature, celebrate jackpot wins together, and generally have a great social experience. Over 18 months, the casino tracked this group's collective losses at approximately $73,000. When the manager happened to mention to one group member how much they appreciated their regular business, the player seemed confused. He said they won pretty regularly and were probably close to even overall. The social atmosphere and constant celebration had created an illusion that completely contradicted the financial reality. Mega Meltdown is a progressive jackpot game with a quirky volcanic theme. It looks fun and lighthearted with cartoonish graphics and upbeat music. But casino managers who've worked with this machine say it represents one of the most deceptive progressive jackpot structures in the industry. Before we break down why this machine is so problematic, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and let me know in the comments what the biggest amount you've ever won on a slot machine was. Now, let's get back to it. The base game RTP for Mega Meltdown can be configured as low as 84% in some jurisdictions. That's brutal. To put it in perspective, you're expected to lose 16 cents of every dollar you wager before even considering variance. But the low base game RTP is justified, according to the manufacturer, because of the progressive jackpot system. Mega Meltdown has 4 progressive levels, and here's where the deception happens. The game displays all 4 jackpot amounts prominently on the screen. The top jackpot, called Mega Meltdown, typically starts at $50,000 and grows from there. Players see that huge number and their brains fixate on it. They start imagining what they'd do with $50,000. The jackpot bonus game triggers randomly, and when it does, you play a picking game where you select volcanoes to reveal jackpot symbols. Match 3 symbols, and you win that jackpot level. Sounds fair, right? Here's the problem managers have identified through years of observation and access to programming data. The game is heavily weighted toward the mini jackpot. When you trigger the picking bonus, you're going to win the mini jackpot approximately 85% of the time. The mini is usually between $10 and $50 depending on how the machine is configured. So the vast majority of players who trigger this supposedly exciting jackpot bonus walk away with maybe $30. The medium and major jackpots hit very rarely, and the mega jackpot is so rare that managers report seeing it hit maybe once every couple of years on a machine that runs constantly. Meanwhile, thousands of players have pumped money into that machine chasing the mega, never coming close to winning it. What makes this particularly problematic is that to fund those progressive jackpots, the base game pays terribly. Every spin you make, a portion of your bet goes toward feeding the progressives. You're paying for jackpots you'll almost certainly never win, and that payment comes in the form of terrible base game returns. One manager described a regular player named Kenneth, who became obsessed with hitting the Mega Meltdown jackpot. Kenneth developed a theory that machines that hadn't hit the Mega in a long time were due to hit it soon. He'd track which machines had gone longest without a Mega jackpot win and focus his play on those machines. Over 2 years, Kenneth played Mega Meltdown religiously. He triggered the jackpot bonus dozens of times and won the mini jackpot almost every time. He won the medium jackpot twice. He never won the major or mega. Casino records showed Kenneth lost approximately $52,000 over those 2 years. The heartbreaking part came when the manager saw Kenneth at the casino, looking defeated. Kenneth explained he'd finally done the math and realized how much money he'd lost. He said he felt stupid for chasing the mega for so long. The manager tried to console him by explaining that the machine was designed to make smart people feel exactly the way Kenneth felt. The psychology was sophisticated and intentional. Timberwolf uses a nature theme with wolves, wilderness, and a soothing forest soundtrack. It looks peaceful and non-threatening, which is exactly what makes it so effective at keeping players seated for extended sessions. Managers identify this machine as a masterclass in creating comfortable, sustained gambling. The base game RTPs is around 88%, which is low, but not the absolute worst we've seen. What makes Timberwolf particularly problematic, according to managers, isn't any single feature, but rather how everything works together to create what they call the zone. This is a state where players lose track of time, stop thinking about money, and just keep spinning. The game uses stacked symbols, which means symbols can appear in groups covering entire reels. When you get multiple reels of stacked matching symbols, you can win across multiple pay lines simultaneously. This creates wins that feel significant. Your screen lights up, you hear celebration sounds, and numbers fly across the display, showing all your winning combinations. Here's the manipulation. Managers explain that these stacked symbol wins often pay less than your total bet, but the presentation makes them feel like victories. You bet $5, you trigger 10 different pay lines with stacked symbols, The machine celebrates, and you win $4. You just lost $1, but your brain registered it as a win because of how it was presented. The free game's bonus triggers with 3 or more scatter symbols, happening roughly once every 120 spins. During free games, wild symbols become stacked as well, leading to bigger potential wins. The bonus typically gives you 8 free spins with the possibility of re-triggering. The problem is that most bonuses, maybe 60 to 70%, according to floor observations, pay less than 50 times your bet. You've spent potentially $600 in spins to trigger a bonus that pays you $200. But because you triggered multiple wins during those free spins and the machine celebrated each one, it doesn't feel like a loss. Managers note that Timberwolf is particularly popular with older players who enjoy the relaxing theme. The gentle graphics and soothing sounds create an almost meditative experience. Players sit down, intending to play for 30 minutes, and suddenly 3 hours have passed. They've been in the zone, spinning rhythmically, barely processing wins and losses, just existing in the comfortable bubble the machine creates. One manager recalled a woman named Diane who played Timberwolf every Thursday afternoon. Diane would arrive around 2 p.m. and usually leave around 6 p.m. She'd sit at the same machine, order the same drink, and just play steadily for 4 hours. To outside observers, Diane looked peaceful and content. Casino tracking data told a different story. Over 14 months, Diane's Thursday sessions cost her approximately $38,000. When the manager expressed concern about her losses during a casual conversation, Diane actually smiled and said she found the game relaxing and considered it cheaper than therapy. She didn't seem to understand that her relaxation was costing her over $20,500 per month. Managers specifically warn about Timberwolf because it's so good at making losing money feel comfortable and even therapeutic. The lack of high-intensity features and aggressive sounds makes the game feel low stakes and harmless when the mathematics are just as bad as any other machine. Blazing Sevens looks like a classic 3-reel slot machine with bars, sevens, and simple graphics. It presents itself as old school and straightforward, a throwback to simpler gambling. Players who are intimidated by modern video slots often gravitate toward Blazing Sevens, thinking it's a safer, more honest game. Casino managers say this is a dangerous misconception. The base game RTP for Blazing Sevens varies significantly based on denomination and configuration, but it typically ranges from 8 to 91%. That sounds almost reasonable until you understand how the payouts are structured. The game focuses almost entirely on one outcome, lining up 3 Blazing 7 symbols on the pay line. This top combination pays either a fixed jackpot or a progressive jackpot depending on the version. It might be 1,000 times your bet or more. Players see this potential and think they're playing for a significant prize. The problem is that hitting 3 Blazing Sevens is extraordinarily rare. Managers estimate it happens approximately once every 5,000 to 10,000 spins, depending on the specific game configuration. Meanwhile, the small and medium pays that happen regularly barely return any money. 2 sevens and a blank might pay 2 times your bet. A mix of bars might pay your bet back or slightly more. You're constantly spinning, constantly losing, waiting for that one big hit that statistically might not come for months of regular play. What concerns managers most about Blazing Sevens is how it attracts players who think they're avoiding the tricks and manipulations of modern video slots. These players believe simpler is better and more honest. But the mathematics of Blazing Sevens are just as unforgiving as any video slot, arguably worse because there are no bonus features to add variety or occasional bigger wins. The near-miss programming on Blazing Sevens is also particularly aggressive. You'll constantly see two blazing sevens line up on the pay line, with the third reel showing a blazing 7 just above or below the line. Your eyes see those three symbols, even though they're not actually aligned for a win. This near miss keeps your brain engaged and convinced that 3 blazing 7s is right around the corner. A manager from a tribal casino shared a story about a man named Robert who only played blazing 7s. Robert was in his 70s and had been playing 3 real slots his entire adult life. He distrusted video slots and considered them rigged. He thought blazing 7s was honest because it was simple. Over the 3 years the manager observed Robert, casino data showed Robert lost approximately $41,000 on blazing 7s machines. Robert hit the top jackpot once during that time, winning $5,000. That single win reinforced his belief that the game was fair and that persistence paid off. He never seemed to calculate that his one $5,000 win against $41,000 in losses meant he was down $36,000 overall. Managers specifically warn players away from games like blazing 7s because they exploit the belief that simpler games are more honest. The mathematics are just as designed to take your money as any modern video slot, but the retro presentation makes players lower their guard. Money Storm looks exciting and action-packed with lightning effects, dramatic sounds, and an intense atmosphere. It promises big wins and high energy, which is exactly what draws players to it. But casino managers identify Money Storm as one of the most efficiently designed money extraction machines on the floor. The base game RTP sits around 86 to 87%, which is poor. But the real issue is the bonus structure and how it's programmed to create cycles of hope and disappointment that keep players locked in for hours. The main feature is a free games bonus that triggers with 3 or more scatter symbols. You get 10 free games with special expanding wild symbols that can lead to significant wins. Managers explain that this bonus triggers approximately once every 140 to 160 spins. That's infrequent enough that you're spending substantial money between bonuses, but frequent enough that you feel like you're always close to the next one. The psychological sweet spot for maximum engagement. Here's where the manipulation gets sophisticated. During the free games, certain symbols can expand to cover entire reels. When this happens with multiple reels, you can win huge amounts, potentially several hundred times your bet. The problem is that the expanding wilds are programmed to appear in patterns that create near misses more often than actual big wins. You'll constantly see 2 reels fill with expanding wilds, while the third reel has the wild symbol land just off the screen. Your brain processes that you were 1 position away from a massive win. This happens repeatedly throughout the bonus, creating intense frustration mixed with excitement. You almost won big, which means you could win big on the next bonus. Managers report that Money Storm bonuses follow a predictable pattern in aggregate. About 60% pay between 10 and 30 times your bet, which is disappointing after spending $300 to $400 in spins to trigger them. Maybe 30% to pay between 30 and 80 times your bet, which feels mediocre. Perhaps 8% pay between 80 and 200 times your bet, which feels good. And only about 2% pay more than 200 times your bet, which creates the memorable wins that keep people playing. What makes Money Storm particularly effective at draining bankrolls is that the high-intensity presentation makes players bet more than they normally would. The dramatic graphics and aggressive sounds create an atmosphere where betting $5 or $10 per spin feels appropriate. Players get caught up in the intensity and bet amounts they'd never bet on a calmer-looking game. One manager described a regular player named Marcus who always played Money Storm on Friday nights after work. Marcus would cash his paycheck, come to the casino and play for several hours. His usual bet was $8 per spin, which he felt matched the game's intense energy. Over 18 months, Marcus visited almost every Friday. Casino records showed he lost approximately $47,000 during that time. He triggered hundreds of bonuses, most of which paid modestly. He hit maybe 5 or 6 really good bonuses that paid over 200 times his bet. Those memorable wins convinced Marcus the game paid well. When the manager eventually had a conversation with Marcus about his play, Marcus estimated he was probably down a few $1,000s over the year and a half. He had no idea his actual losses were nearly $50,000. The high-intensity experience had so thoroughly distorted his perception that he'd lost track of financial reality completely. Managers warn that Money Storm and games like it are designed to create an emotional state where rational decision-making becomes difficult. The intensity, the near misses, the occasional big win, all work together to keep you betting more than you planned for longer than you intended. And now we've reached number 1 on our list. Mighty Cash is Aristocrat's latest evolution of the hold and respin concept, and according to casino managers, it might be the most psychologically sophisticated money extraction machine ever created. Everything about this game is designed to maximize time on device and minimize returns while making the experience feel rewarding. The base game RTP is approximately 86%, which is terrible. But what makes Mighty Cash the number 1 machine to avoid isn't just the low RTP, it's how every single element works together to create what managers call the perfect trap. The game features the hold and respin mechanic that triggers when you land 6 or more coin symbols. You get 3 respins that reset when you land more coins. Managers explain that this feature is programmed to trigger frequently, roughly once every 55 to 70 spins. That's more frequent than most hold and respin games. The frequent trigger rate keeps you constantly engaged. You're never more than a few minutes from seeing the feature again. But here's the devastating mathematics. Casino managers with access to detailed payout data report that Mighty Cash features pay between 5 and 30 times your bet approximately 80% of the time. You're spending $100 in spins to trigger a feature that pays you $20. But because you triggered a feature and saw coins landing and respins happening, your brain registers excitement rather than loss. The game also incorporates 4 progressive jackpots: mini, minor, major, and mighty. During the hold and respin feature, certain coin symbols have jackpot labels. Collect the right combination, and you can win a jackpot. The mighty jackpot typically starts around $5,000, and that number is prominently displayed. Managers explain that the mighty jackpot is programmed to hit extremely rarely, potentially once every 100,000 spins or more. Meanwhile, the mini jackpot hits regularly, usually paying $10 to $30. Players trigger the feature, win the mini jackpot, and feel rewarded even though they spent far more than they won to trigger that feature. What makes Mighty Cash particularly insidious is the celebration programming. Every time you land a coin symbol during the base game, the machine reacts with sounds and animations. Every time you trigger the feature, loud music plays. Every time you win any jackpot, even the tiny mini, the machine goes absolutely crazy with effects. Managers describe playing Mighty Cash as being in a constant state of celebration. Something exciting is always happening. Your sensory experience tells you you're winning while your bankroll steadily decreases. The cognitive dissonance created by this disconnect is powerful and disorienting. The game also features what managers call aspirational celebration. When someone on any Mighty Cash machine in the casino wins the major or mighty jackpot, every other Mighty Cash machine makes noise and displays the win, If you're playing and someone across the casino wins $5,000, your machine announces it. You see the big number, hear the excitement, and think that could be you next. This creates casino-wide positive reinforcement for a game that's systematically taking money from nearly everyone playing it. The handful of big jackpot winners subsidize the constant celebration that keeps hundreds of other players losing money hour after hour. A manager from a major Las Vegas casino shared what might be the most disturbing observation about Mighty Cash. The casino installed a bank of 12 machines in a prime location. Within weeks, these 12 machines became some of the most popular and most profitable in the entire property. The manager watched players cycle through these machines constantly. People would sit down, play for 1 to 3 hours, and leave. New players would immediately take their place. The constant activity and celebration created a scene that attracted even more players. The bank of Mighty Cash machines became its own ecosystem of excitement and loss. Over 6 months, those 12 machines generated over $1.2 million in profit for the casino. That's an average of $200,000 per machine in pure profit in just half a year. The manager calculated that this meant thousands of players collectively lost over $1 million in 6 months on just 12 machines. What haunted this manager was watching players leave those machines smiling. They'd just lost hundreds or thousands of dollars, but the experience had been so stimulating and the celebration programming so effective that they left feeling entertained. The game had completely severed the connection between the experience and the financial reality. Multiple managers who came forward specifically cited Mighty Cash as the machine they most wish would be removed from casino floors. They described feeling complicit in something unethical every time they watched players feed money into these machines. One manager was quoted saying that maintaining Mighty Cash machines made them question their career choice because the psychological manipulation was so transparent once you understood how it worked. So those are the 10 slot machines that casino managers say you should avoid at all costs. But beyond avoiding specific machines, what's the real takeaway here? Every slot machine in every casino is programmed to take more money than it gives back. That's not a secret or a conspiracy. It's how casinos operate legally and profitably. The machines we've discussed today aren't illegal or technically fraudulent. They're just the most effective at using psychological principles to maximize profit. The colorful themes, exciting sounds, frequent features, near, misses, and celebration programming are all carefully designed elements meant to keep you playing longer and betting more. The most important thing you can do is set strict limits before you start playing and stick to them no matter what. Never chase losses. Never convince yourself you're due for a win. Never fall into the trap of thinking the next spin will be different. The mathematics don't care about your history or your hopes. Every spin is independent and the odds are always against you. If you choose to play slots, treat it purely as entertainment with money you can afford to lose completely. The moment you start thinking of it as a way to make money or even break even, you've fallen into the psychological trap these machines are designed to create. Stay informed, stay aware, and protect yourself. Subscribe for more insider information about how casinos really work.